Hi, Madeleine. Um,
Hello.
I'm Laureen Marchand, and today I'm with Madeleine Greenway. I'm talking to Madeleine as I'm the owner and operator of Grasslands Gallery Online, and Madeleine is one of the newest artists to join the gallery. And it's a real pleasure to actually connect with her in person. Grasslands Gallery Online is Saskatchewan's only fully online professional commercial art gallery. And one of the things we like to do is give people a chance to get to know the artists through nice conversations like the one we're going to have today. So Madeleine Greenway, resident in Regina,
Mhm.
primarily a printmaker, but you also work in pencil crayon.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about that as we go. So why don't we start by you telling us about where you came from and how you got to where you are?
Sure. So I'm located in Regina, Treaty 4 territory. I was born and raised here. I actually still live in my childhood home in North Central Regina as an adult. I did leave Regina briefly to go get my Bachelor of Fine Arts in printmaking, which I did at the Alberta College of Art and Design in Calgary. Which is now known as the Alberta University of the Arts, but same place. And then I returned to Regina to do my Master's of Fine Art at the University of Regina and completed that just uh, a hair away from 2 years ago now.
And what do you what is it that brought you to printmaking instead of one of the other art forms that they teach at art school?
Yeah, so it was actually looking at printmaking first, which drew me to it. So I didn't know what printmaking was before I got to art school. And then when I saw other people's print work, thought whatever that is, that's what I would like to do. I did try lots of other things as well, and I'm very a little unfocused at times, but printmaking has always pulled me back. Um, I like the way it makes me have to slow down, be a little bit more mindful and intentional. You have to plan things out better, which is kind of not always my nature. So I appreciate the way it makes me think, and as well as the kind of final aesthetic of the result as well.
For people who aren't familiar with the form, can you talk a bit about what printmaking is and
Yeah,
about
of
the
course.
kind of printmaking you do?
Yes. So printmaking is an umbrella term which incorporates several different methods, but that all have some things in common. Um, the most or the things that keep them in common would be the ability to make multiples, um, and usually the use of an ink and a plate of some kind, something that you put the ink on, being transferred onto paper. So all forms of printmaking use those principles. The forms of printmaking that I stick to are relief and silkscreen. So with both of those printmaking methods, you have one color being laid down at a time. So it's almost like an kind of assembly line type uh, process. So you'd have, for example, 10 sheets of paper, and then you print one color on all 10 of them, and then they dry, and then you do the next color, so on and so forth. So with silkscreen, the way that I produce my silkscreens is I draw each color on a transparent medium. Um, that is then exposed onto a silkscreen, kind of like a photo negative. And then that's used as a stencil to push or pull the ink through the kind of fabric of the silkscreen onto the paper. For relief, it's actually a carved plate. So most people are familiar with woodcut because it's much older, but what I use is called just lino. It's kind of a rubbery type material. So in that case, each layer would be carved on each plate, and then they're printed separately.
And as you describe it, printmaking is nothing like what many people think of when they hear the term prints. where there's
Yeah.
something already made that's then photographed and
Yeah.
mechanically reproduced. Yours are originals because you
Yeah.
interact with every piece of paper.
Yes. And there's no, for me personally, I don't use any digital processes or material. So some people might use photographs to create a print, but I only use my own drawn materials. So
Your colors are so vibrant. I've recently, I'm putting together an exhibition for Saskatchewan Art Gallery Day, an entirely online art gallery. Putting together a physical exhibition is not what we always do,
yeah.
but it was a really good opportunity to have an exhibition installed in a museum in Val Marie, Saskatchewan, which is grasslands, which is the gateway to Grasslands National Park. And the exhibition will be installed for the entire summer. So more people in, not just from Saskatchewan, but literally from around the world will have the opportunity of seeing your lovely, vibrant work. So I've been handling the real work lately and not just seeing it on a screen. And your colors are just alive. They're they're it's not that they're bright, but it's not just that. They're intense and really pure. Is that related to the process that you use, or is that your color choices?
I mix all my own inks. I don't make them, but I mix my colors. So um, I do like color quite a bit. um, and I really want to convey kind of the vibrancy and vitality of the subject matter. So when I'm choosing colors, I'm finding things that are kind of as pleasing to me as possible and as kind of appealing as possible as well.
Well, they're lovely things to look at, and I'm very much looking forward to installing the show. Do you remember when you started making art and why you started?
Like many artists, I've kind of always been making art in some capacity. Um, Definitely drawing has been the kind of commonality through my whole life. So I've been drawing for a very long time. Um, Sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Uh, why you were drawn to it?
Right. I've always found art making to be both pleasurable and also very good for me. So I think a lot of people kind of through the pandemic and post pandemic have felt like mental health is more at the front of mind. And so I've been coming to recognize just how healthy it keeps my brain and how much happier it makes me to be making things and engaged in making things. Um, and really, a big part of my motivation to keep drawing is that I keep growing things. So, my garden is also a big part of my mental health practice, keeps me outside and physical and joyful and all of those things. So, I keep growing things and then I keep wanting to make them into artworks as well. So, they're kind of two practices that work together and go together and keep me sane and happy.
I know in your bio you talk about the importance of growing and of food in your life, and it shows in your artwork. Sorry, how how poorly timed of a cough to attack you in the middle of a recording. So you are a printmaker, but you also use pencil crayons.
Yeah.
And how does what do you do with them?
Uh, so I kind of right in the middle of my master's degree was actually when the pandemic lockdown happened. So part of why I started using pencil crayons was because I lost studio access. So at the beginning, it was a practical choice just to have a way to continue making work. Um, but because I'm really comfortable with drawing mediums, and that's kind of what I have done for the longest, even before I was printmaking, it was a very comfortable place to return to. But I also find that with pencil crayon in particular, I can get really lovely kind of blends and gradients and vibrancy and kind of light and all of the things that I really love about just images in general and in my other work as well.
So pencil crayon on paper, as if it were
Yeah.
printmaking.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing those as well. And what is it that keeps you in love with what you do?
I really find um, I like the challenge, like I kind of said earlier. I like the way that printmaking makes me think. I am capable of drawing and producing things really quickly, and so I actually like being made to slow down and be a little bit more intentional and spend time with the work. Um, so it's kind of the change in pace, I guess, from everyday life of having to kind of slow down and focus more on what I'm doing is really, and just the joy and the pleasure of it, of course, keeps me coming back.
And there's probably something in there about your desire to present a certain way of seeing to an
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, absolutely. So it's a way of showing, I suppose, my own viewfinder, if you will. So the the pleasure that I find and the kind of other sensual experiences of fruit and vegetables and the growing and the eating and trying to capture all of that
Mm-hmm.
in the delight of a particular image through kind of technical processes is also a very enjoyable challenge.
Well, I know that when people see this interview, they'll want to see what your work looks like, and I know they will find all those lovely things in it because it is very beautiful printmaking. Um, and what do you hope people take away from the art you make?
Yeah, so uh, I mean, I've kind of briefly talked about all the benefits that I get from the work
Mm-hmm.
I make, and in a very like on the simplest level, I hope that other people can access those things too. So all the joy and the pleasure and the happiness and the intention and mindfulness, I think those things become an inherent part of the work, um, which other people can access by sharing space with it or by looking at it. Um, and so, being able to transfer some of that peace and intent to other people is a big part of it. Um, but I also want people to, through the work, kind of think more about, the places that they find joy and pleasure in their own lives, and maybe even the ways that they can cultivate that a little bit more, especially through kind of food and eating and mindful cooking, or the ways that we enjoy the presence of others through food, or the way that we practice culture or care through food as well.
Well, I think that's a lovely note to end on. The idea that people can find their own joy and their own relationships with other people through looking at your work. It's beautiful work. When I see it, it doesn't make me want to eat things. But it does bring me a new appreciation of some of the things that we're so accustomed to being around that we might not notice them,
Yeah.
like a cob of corn or a bag of apples.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for that experience. Thank you for this conversation. It's
Thank
been
you
a
so
real
much.
pleasure.
Oh,
Okay,
mine as well.
and we'll look forward to I'll look forward to hanging the work, and I'll look forward to talking to you next time.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.